What's going on, guys? Mommy Teacher Nows, and we are back with the GPL Week 1 Power Rankings for the Johto region. Of course, I don't do these Power Rankings alone. As you can see in the top right corner above me, I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Trancel. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad. Ready to get into this?
Alrighty, so for those of you who haven't seen these before, these power rankings are now going to be much more objective because we actually have results to go on, so win, loss and differential will be the primary factor which determines your placing. But in the case of tiebreakers, which are going to be very common in the early weeks, we'll explain the factors that decided it either way as we go through each individual coach. So, with all that being said, starting off at rank number 10 is going to be Professor Elm5, coach of the now Coastal Claydols, formerly of course the Providence Polyraphs. Took a bit of a brutal loss to Akame, if I'm being honest. I feel like when I watched his game, I actually managed to watch his video. Something that kind of really stood out to me was how fast he was playing early. It was almost like he knew what was happening, and then he missed the very key detail, which was Akame's Heracross being scarfed. And because of that, like throwing away his Weavile, which was his win condition, really put him so far on the back foot, and it just never looked like he was going to get back into the game. Yeah,
I think him not having hazard removal, you really saw it stick in with the Toja Kiss and the Bigger Volt. He really loved running Life Orb, and I don't think it added too much in this.
No, I feel like this is going to be an issue with his team moving forward, though, because his only removal comes from Hydreigon and Togekiss and Claydol. Obviously, Hydreigon doesn't really want to run Defog, it wants to be more offensive. Togekiss can be a Defogger, but it's forced to be a little bit more passive. And Claydol, I'm not a huge fan of the Claydol pick in general. I don't really see Claydol spinning really being that impactful, especially as this week he has to play against me, so he's not going to have a super easy time of it. I actually do have some pretty interesting stuff for him that I think he's going to have a really hard time playing against. So I'm really interested to see how he adapts. He does learn pretty quickly, though. He has already learned a few things already, he has said on my stream earlier. So I'm really hopeful to see a very quick turnaround and see what he's got to offer. But for now, I'm pretty concerned.
Yeah, he just kind of... The Inteleon didn't really get to do anything. It kind of just got trapped in a vortex with the U-turning and teleporting of the Slowking. Regenerator too strong there.
Literally just did nothing. The Flutterby just did barely more than Regenerator heals back. It's like, yeah, that's a big problem. But fingers crossed. Maybe fingers crossed for week 3 for you, Professor. Alright. Coming in then at rank number 9 is gonna be Berger, the Stall Master himself. Also took a bit of a crushing loss this week. He brought a lot of stall, but it didn't really seem to stall out DJ Sun very well.
No. It didn't help that he had no removal as well, as the rocks on the Incineroar just, kind of destroyed it. He realized he messed up when it was below 25% and he U-turned out towards the end of the game. And then he's explained it. I think everyone knows about the whole licky G-Max Venusaur at the end, where he kind of just let it set up for free and just destroyed his team. Yeah, definitely something to watch out for, those kind of setup plays. I mean, I completely understand the Wish Protect play. It makes a lot of sense, but when there's a setup Venusaur sitting in Sun on the other side, you really gotta hit it. You really have to hit that thing. You don't want to let that thing get set up for nothing. So this is a pretty bad mistake from Berger. I think he's going to have a much better time this time round. I'm trying to see who he's facing. He's actually facing what would normally be Xanadu, but is actually going to be taken over by Shadow AX. We'll talk about that when we get to Xanadu. But yeah, definitely interesting to see where this team goes. Hopefully we don't see a lot of these issues again. I do like some parts of this team. I'm not a huge fan of certain parts, but I think it's actually got potential to be good. But the other argument, of course, is this is arguably the hardest match Berger has to play all season. So now he's got it out of the way. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of get himself into a foothold and see what happens after that.
Yeah, I believe he plays Akami week 9 because I see Akami yawning with his Quagsire thing.
Yeah.
Stall. And now Berger's even got he's got the toxicity for the Orbeetle. I know Manectric got changed. I think it was like Pukamiku, and then
Xatu's in for Tangela is the last
okay.
trade. So yeah, definitely a bit of a shake-up. Kind of sad to see the Orbeetle get dropped, but that's being said, I did say this before, I felt like Orbeetle got pretty hard nerfed as a G-Max without being able to use heavy-duty boots. I think Berger finally agrees. So, be interesting to see how Toxtricity works on this team. I'm not super familiar with G-Max Toxtricity. I don't think it's that strong myself, but we'll have to see what Berger can do with it.
Yeah.
Alright. Coming in at rank number 8 then is going to be the aforementioned Xanadu of the Charon Pickers. Definitely showed a lot of the concerns that we had post-draft about this team having a lot of core ideas but not really a team of 6. Some of the problems, of course, we saw the Alolan Marowak not carrying Poltergeist, it was carrying Shadowbone instead. I can only put this down to the fact that Winter is new, so it is a good chance that she probably wasn't aware that Marowak got Poltergeist, or Poltergeist was a move. So it definitely shows the lack of experience definitely put her in a bad position, and having to face a Rillaboom Melmetal in week 1 when you're not super experienced, that's definitely not fun. She definitely did, unfortunately, sack off the Blastoise for nothing, which really didn't help. And then the Porygon 2 died for no reason either. The Blizzard plus Hail against the Alola Ninetales does not do as much damage as the P2 could recover. So she had plenty of options to just stall it. I think the Porygon had recover. I think we saw it in the merge.
Yeah, it was spamming it at first, and then she just started attacking. So
yeah, definitely some strange decision making. Obviously, a bit of inexperience showing. We have actually been made aware that Xanadu is actually very ill at the moment, so will not be taking part for a couple of weeks, which is where Shadow AX is going to be stepping away from Denistrio's team. Then he is actually back, and he is going to be playing, and Shadow is going to take over this team until Xanadu comes back. Obviously, on behalf of everybody on the league, we do wish you a swift and safe recovery, Xanadu. Hopefully you'll be back soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's always sad when things like that happen. But we do look after each other here. We're all friends here. So hopefully we'll see you back soon. Alright.
Yeah.
So coming in at number 7 is going to be Niko, of course. Took a bit of a tough loss against me. I felt like there were some rather interesting decisions made. My biggest issue, and I said this during my battle video, I was kind of elated as soon as I clicked in the team preview not to see the Dhelmise. Dhelmise to me was a monster to prep for. An AV set with Spin and Earthquake just ruined a lot of my team. I had a really hard time prepping for that, but it didn't come, and I was kind of confused as to why. And then during the actual battle itself, I did like his turn 1 play. He punished my aggression by making the safe play in the Klefki. He had the option to do that again on my Duraludon. Instead, he just opted to let his G-Max Cinderace take half health. Not really sure I was a fan of that play either. But he did have some good points. I did like his Scar Fracture Brain with Mold Breaker. That was a very nice little setup to deal with Mimikyu. Very well played on his end there. But I just felt like there was small little signs of life, but he couldn't really get going in a pretty rough matchup.
Yeah, the Indeedee switch was pretty strange to me as well, because that thing was also a huge threat to your team. But
for sure, yeah.
Kind of just didn't get to do anything. Yeah, I was very surprised in this matchup not to see T-Wave on Klefki. I guess, I mean, he could have had both, because you have a Rotom Wash, so you want to be able to Toxic that.
Yeah,
but
I think we only saw Foul Play and Toxic on that set before it dropped. I would assume one of those moves was Defog, because he had no other removal on his team except Defog on Conkeldurr, which, in all honesty, I said this in the team build, I said it in the battle, I feel like Conkeldurr with Defog is move slot syndrome, so I doubt that was really possible. I mean, it could well have been.
Yeah, for sure.
But very difficult to know. But yeah, of course, it is worth pointing out for next week, he didn't draft this team. He has made 3 changes. He's dropped his Conkeldurr, which caught me unawares. He's got Alakazam in. He dropped Bishop for Gyarados, which is actually a pretty surprising swap as well, given the fact he has a Lantern. And he actually, in fact, dropped the Lantern as well for Scrafty. So he's shuffled his team around a little bit. Hopefully he's more comfortable with this team. Definitely interesting. Really interested to see how Scrafty fits into this. I actually almost considered drafting Scrafty myself, but I picked up Pangoro instead. So pretty interesting set of replacements. Looking forward to seeing how that changes and if it does mold Niko into a strong team. The guy's a tough player. Like there's no writing him off. Like he only missed playoffs last season on differential, and he had a tough group as well. So the guy's strong. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to come forward next season long. As I'm just seeing who he's playing next. He has got Sylvie. So that'll be a good one to get a foothold into.
Yeah.
If he can manage to deal with Zeraora. Right. So, coming in at rank number 6 is going to be, funny enough, it's going to be his opponent. It's going to be Sylvie. Oh dear. I'll let you say this one.
Yeah, so there was some things in this game that I feel like Sylvie could have done better. The whole multi-attacking with Savali just felt so counterintuitive to me, just because like that's his only one like somewhat answer to Rillaboom, so then Rillaboom kind of just destroyed him after that was gone, and Corviknight. But yeah,
I was also surprised by the type of the Silvally. I was not expecting to see Dragon there. I was looking at Fire or Ice potentially being much more threatening, because obviously they both hit Rillaboom incredibly hard for super effective damage. So it was kind of an interesting choice to bring Dragon. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that was. Of course, we said this, Axel and I both said this in Pick'ems as well. Zeraora was the key win condition, and I don't really feel like at many points Sylvie kind of played towards it.
He got a lucky crit on the Corviknight that kind of saved it, but then it just was too low because of Life Orb recoil for the Rillaboom.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he lost a matchup that I thought was favourable, but apparently I was wrong. But nonetheless, he's still... I feel like he actually played probably the best I've seen him in a loss. Usually we see him just collapse. He relies on setup too much and then just dies. But no, I feel like this was an improvement from the Sylvie we've seen in previous seasons, but I want to see how he goes against some of the quote-unquote lesser-seeded players, because obviously Shadow is definitely one of the upper tiers of the league, so definitely a tough one. But let's have to see how well he plays against Niko. That's going to be an interesting match to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, coming in at rank number 5 then is going to be Arvid. Of course, taking out our newcomer Winter, with that Rillaboom especially putting in a lot of work, not actually G-maxing at all, which was pretty interesting to me. Didn't really need it, just enjoyed the Grassy Glide. I think a lot of people did. But yeah, I feel like even though there were certain things I was a little bit surprised by, I definitely was kind of happy to see Arvid really kind of prove me wrong in Pick'ems, because I said I didn't think there was any way he'd win this game.
The Drapion set was kind of funny to me, because I tried to pull this off once in Season 2, but he got a kill out of it. Annihilated that Sizzle. I forgot Sizzle was even in that game.
Yeah, I know, right? So just came back in the armor.
Yeah. Melmetal kind of just had free reign after that. It wasn't defensive scissor, I feel. Oh, then again, it's a sniper crit, so that probably does a hell of a lot of damage. Don't know if it was defensive scissor or not.
I feel like it was, because I feel like we saw... Oh no, that was a scissor in the other game. I was thinking of something else. But yeah. Yeah, that scissor really did not appreciate being in there. But yeah, definitely some interesting plays. We definitely got to see Rillaboom Melmetal as a combination work very, very effectively. We'll be interested to see if Arvid can pilot that against some of the stronger players. Just looking at who Arvid's playing. He's playing DJ. So
yeah, I remember
that's going to be a pretty horrible matchup for Rillaboom Melmetal. So this will be interesting to see where the difference comes in and what he changes.
For sure.
Alrighty then, which means moving on to rank number 4 is gonna be... Oh wait, hold on, that says Denistrio's logo, but unfortunately Denistrio was unable to play this week, so it was more like it was actually gonna be Shadow, so we're just gonna call it the Shiro Shadows this week. Actually pretty questionable plays as well, very, very scrappy win. Definitely weird around the Gengar. I know Shadow made a pretty somewhat compelling argument for not G-Maxing in case of Zeraora, but it definitely doesn't hold up to me. At any point, even if you Thunderbolt, you may as well max Lightning at that point. You're still putting a lot of pressure on with the Gengar. It definitely does a lot of work. And even if the Zeraora comes in, I just don't see how a Max Ooze isn't bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't see a knockoff killing from full on.
It doesn't kill from full on G-Max. I count that before, unless it's banded, and even that's a roll, so...
Yeah, and we found out it was a life orb, so... Wouldn't have been anywhere near. Yeah. But, in the end, like I said with Sylvie, don't know, with the Dragon, that was his only resist, and then the Rillaboom just came in, and I just remember him spamming Rillaboom in the chat.
Yep. That was kind of funny watching it live, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, Rillaboom definitely putting in the work. Also want to give a bit of a homage to Flip Turn Milotic. I didn't even realize that thing got Flip Turn. That was pretty funny. Definitely some interesting pivoting going on. Obviously, of course, Denny did actually recently drop a Araquanid and acquire Slurpuff. Interesting fairy type to add to this team. Definitely some Belly Drum shenanigans, potentially. Also, still a web setter, though, which is kind of nice for it. Didn't drop any webs control, which is actually kind of important to this team, so... Definitely excited to see. Denny is actually playing this week, so that's cool. He's playing a Kami, which... Ooh, what a horrible match to come into. These two are actually kind of trash-talking each other on mine and Akami stream earlier, so it was pretty funny. So I'm definitely interested to see who wins out of that, and who wins the bragging rights. Alright then, coming in at number 3, I'll let you take this one away. It's actually going to be myself. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think he played this pretty solidly. Like you said, Niko, you got a decent predict on turn 1, but it just felt like you were in control most of the time. Like the fracture coming in at the end to get you through with Mold Breaker with Shadow Claw, and it being scarfed, definitely. But then that was just an easy scout, and yeah, I don't really know if there was anything really that would have changed. I was thinking of like the Octazalt, but we found out it was banded. Like even if everything had hit, yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't think it would have done anything after.
Like the two big misplays really from me came from my turn 1 aggression. I was definitely caught in two minds in that play, and then of course Mud Cell. I should have body pressed the G-Max Cinderace, but I clicked Earthquake and Grassy Terrain by mistake. That was a silly play on my end. I miscalculated that. Those are mistakes that I have to iron out if I want to take on some of the stronger players. I have a pretty interesting match with Professor Elm this week. Obviously lost, but is a very strong player. So these are the kind of players that I can't afford to make these mistakes against. So this will have to be ironed out throughout the season. I think I prepped pretty well. I brought a relatively safe set for week 1. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, I could have got tiny bits more differential out of the game. Potentially, I didn't have to sack the Duraludon, but I didn't know if the Fracture had Outrage. So I was kind of like, well, if the Fracture had Outrage, my Volcarona dies anyway, so I didn't see a point. I was going to sack something, so I might as well sack the member that didn't do that much. Well, it was already going to die anyway. So, yeah, definitely a pretty well navigated game, I'd say, which is kind of typical of my playstyle. You know, calculated aggression and generally playing as safe as possible to make sure that I don't throw anything away. That's going to be kind of where I find my strength in this game. I do like this team a lot, so I'm looking forward to taking on Professor and being 2-0 up, just to wind him up.
Yeah, I think that you got the benefit of the fact that Niko was super unsure with his team, but yeah, you had the better matchup and came through. So don't ask for much more.
Exactly. Coming in at rank number 2. He's gonna hate me for this one. Sorry, Akami, I put you at rank number 2. Oh dear. He also asked me not to talk about a specific Pokemon, but that Galarian Darmanitan though, right? You know, sorry, Akami, I just have to do it. Like, you can't ask me not to do something, because that's reverse psychologizing me to do it. But nah. Like, generally speaking, I really liked the Scarf Heracross. I thought that was a very, very smart bring. Definitely gonna catch Professor unawares with that. The double Scarf strats are relatively common in a lot of instances, especially when you're a slower team facing a pretty fast team, which Professor Elm is. Definitely loved the Slowking playing around the G-Max Inteleon. Definitely nullified that G-Max really well, even though I felt like the G-Max was somewhat premature from Professor Elm. But I think generally speaking, this was a very solid, well-rounded game from Akami, and it's nice to see that the Akami from Season 1 is the same Akami what we've got now, despite the fact he's not played a lot of Gen 8 format.
Yeah, the Colossal basically was just seemed to be just a perfect check for the Togekiss, and just allowed him to get up rocks, and yeah, that just kind of wrecked Elm's team. And I love the clutch use of rocks and like recoil for the Dom to be able to outspeed the Scarf Hydreigon at the end. It got enough speed for it.
Yeah, definitely very, very shrewd prep, and that's going to make him a bit of a nightmare coming forward for Denny this week. Be a bit of a prep nightmare. I'm looking forward to watching that match now. But that means, of course, unmoved from being number 1 from post-draft, DJ's still here. Well, what more can we say about this? The Torkoal had a lot of free turns. I felt like the Torkoal was allowed to pretty much do way more than it should have done. The fact that it just seemed to come in whenever it wants and do whatever it wants. Definitely a little bit of an alarm bell ringing, for sure. But I think the biggest terror really was that Venusaur. Venusaur just never looked like it was going to struggle. And then, of course, being allowed to set up 2 growths by a Licky was being too passive with Wish Protect. DJ just showed how strong he is with a weather team and why this is a nightmare to play against.
Yeah, for sure. There was some interesting things that, I guess, the switch in, like the Dom didn't really get to do a lot. It just kind of died to an EQ basically. I think he got a kill. I forgot what he killed, but
I believe it killed whatever the Incineroar switched out into with a Flare Blitz and died to its own recoil, if I remember correct. I might be wrong on that play, but that was a pretty good read on Berger's end to switch in or to hit the Earthquake on the Darmanitan. I actually watched Tanishio and Cap Guy's recap stream. They actually felt like this was a prediction on Berger's end. I actually felt like Earthquake was a safe play because all of DJ's mons bar type null were actually not appreciating a ground type move. So I actually felt like it was a very, very, very smart play to go for the EQ there. Definitely limited Darmanitan's impact, but nonetheless, though, that Venusaur was a problem.
The Dom U-turned and then he just sacked it later to get a free switch into Venu or Torkoal, one of the two.
Yeah. But either way, really strong showing from DJ. It's why we put him at number 1. It's why he's a terror. He's having to play Arvid this week, so that's going to be an interesting one. I think Sun definitely comes to that match. Against the Red Beam Metal Sun, it's a nightmare. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how well that goes. But either way, guys, that's going to be it for the power rankings from Johto. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Rybombi Teacher. That's Trancel. And we'll catch you guys later. So stay safe, stay awesome. I want to see you guys in the next one. Take care.